Hello everyone, welcome to the Parrot Teacher. I'm David, I'm joined by Pickles and Scampi, and today's video is going to be discussing dry mixes and making your own. So in this video I'm going to be making my own DIY dry mix. I'm going to be talking about the benefits of doing so. I'm going to be talking about how it is not really a complete diet, even when you do it, and the sort of other things you need to include. And then discussing the benefits of specifically making your own over just purchasing them on the market. Hopefully there'll be lots of interesting stuff to cover, and hopefully it goes well. And also we'll be discussing each ingredient that I've picked and the reasons why, because I think that's important and useful. I wanted to start with talking about the benefits of creating a dry mix or serving a dry mix, because this includes pre-made ones. And the benefits of a dry mix is it adds a massive amount of diversity to your parrot's diet. If it has lots of ingredients, lots of fun things in there, there is lots of diversity and things for them to enjoy in just one sort of portion. The other thing that's important as well is it is easy to serve. A lot of people like pellets or seed mixes, etc., because they're easy to serve, it's quick and easy. A dry mix is just as quick and easy. It may take a little bit of time to make if you're doing your own. However, once it's made, you store it and you serve it. Very easy to just dish out. A dry mix is also useful because it just includes so many things which sort of encourages enrichment in your parrot's diet. So it is enriching to have all these lovely things for them to pack out and try. And because of that, it almost encourages foraging. If you've got a dry mix and you use it for foraging activities or even in their bowl, it will encourage them to forage and peck around. And I'll talk a little bit about them being selective later, because that can be a bad thing too. The other sort of two benefits of a dry mix I want to cover is bioavailability. Now, bioavailability means how easy it is for an organism to get nutrients out of a food source. And a lot of the ingredients in a dry mix will be bioavailable. Some will be less so, some will be more so, but as a general rule, they are more bioavailable. And finally, it is quite a good tool for diet conversion depending on what ingredients you put into it. If you put loads of freeze-dried veggies and bits like that, it can be a useful tool for diet conversion to fresh, because your parrot will have tried maybe some dried herbs or they will have tried some freeze-dried vegetables. They may be more likely to try the fresh stuff, so it can be a useful thing there. I just quickly want you to talk about dry mix as a complete diet. Dry mix is not a complete diet. It is really good, and if it's balanced, everything's really as a good alternative to just feeding vegetables or just feeding seed. It's better than that. However, it does not provide everything your parrot needs. It is best fed alongside a nice fresh diet, which includes lots of veggies, herbs, sprouted seeds, soaked nuts, that sort of thing. So you want to be providing everything for your parrot so they get a nice balanced diet. Dry mix on its own is not ideal, although it is better, as I said, but just have it with vegetables too, and then you'll have the perfect balanced diet for your parrot. Now, I talked about in the first section as a benefit, your parrot may be picking through there and selecting certain things and foraging in the dry mix. That can also be a negative, and you can have selective feeding where your parrot will actively go through your dry mix and pick just their favourite bits. And you'll see that in seed mixes and in veggies as well. And the key to preventing this or helping with it is portion size. If they have a massive portion, of course they're going to take their favourites out so they can fill up on that. If you manage the portion sizes, that will be less likely to happen because they'll be more inclined to try everything when they're hungry. As a rule of thumb, if you're confused by portion sizing, this is one sort of a lot of people use, is for a small bird, 1 tablespoon in the morning, 1 tablespoon in the evening, depending on what you're feeding. For a medium, it's 2 tablespoons. For a large bird, it's 3. And you can adjust that depending on how much your parrot eats. It's only a rough rule to give you a guideline. Final point on a dry mix not being a complete diet is fruit. A lot of dry mixes and seed mixes contain fruit, and while fruit can be beneficial in small portions, although it's better fresh, it's kind of a treat food, a junk food in its dried form, so it is better in moderation. So if you're making your own dry mix, my one won't contain any fruit at all, because we like to just give it separately or fresh. You want it as a very minor ingredient. You want it to be a very small proportion of it, because you don't really want your parrot getting that sort of junky element in their dry mix. Now, you may also ask, when making your own dry mix or making a dry mix, about proportions of ingredients. And the guideline is really, you don't want anything to be a dominant ingredient in there. You want to have a big mix and lots of diversity in that dry mix. I know it's kind of a cop-out answer, and I know a lot of you are like, I want to know the percentage of this and that, but from when you're making your own DIY one, it's not as important as the mixture of diversity. Obviously, you don't want it to be massively seed heavy and then have nothing else. You just want everything to be well measured. And if you're just doing it at home for yourself, It doesn't need to be scientifically proportioned, you can just do it by approximations. Now, me and Sophie are actually studying animal nutrition right now, and we're going to be specialising in avian nutrition, so you may see some videos from us in the future talking about the nitty-gritty of and the biology of these things, but for this video, just use the rule of mix lots of things together and make sure that nothing is a predominant ingredient in there. Before I go into the ingredients and talk about my own dry mix, I wanted to talk about why you would want to make your own dry mix at home. And the first reason is it saves money. It may include a bit of an initial outlay because you have to buy all those ingredients, combine them, but it is so much cheaper than buying like Parrot mixes, pellet seed mixes, etc. because you can make these massive portions, store them, it lasts for absolutely ages, and then you're just feeding your birds. So in the long run, it saves a lot of money. The next thing is it's lots of fun. It's actually quite enjoyable thinking about the ingredients and what you want to put in there. It's almost like, it's like creating something, and it's just a lot of fun to do. And finally, you can tailor it to your own birds' needs and what they like. So you can sort of tailor the portion sizing, you can tailor the proportions. There's all sorts of things that you can do to customise it for your own parrot, rather than buying someone else's sort of customization, which could work for your parrot. They may absolutely love it. However, me and Sophie really like and enjoy doing our own. I just wanted to mention as well, this isn't something we're going to be selling or anything. This is literally for our own parrots. We just like to make it for ourselves. Now I've talked a little bit about the benefits and all the sort of different aspects of a dry mix, I'm going to get started and show you all the ingredients of making my own. Right guys, so instead of just bringing packets out and showing them to you, I thought I'd show you each individual ingredient on a plate with a nice background so you can see it as we do it. This is pot barley. It's high in fibre, has lots of essential nutrients, and it is good for their digestion. So we thought we'd start off with this. We talk about some grains first, and then we'll go on to the other ingredients later. The next grain we have is oat groats, which is high in fibre, fatty acids and B vitamins. Now remember guys, if you're in the UK and you want to purchase any of these, we'll leave a link to buy Whole Foods where we get our individual ingredients so you can check them out too. Here we have some whole pumpkin seeds. These are high in antioxidants, manganese and vitamin K. We do like to include these because the birds like them, but we do include them in moderation as well because they can be quite high in fat, but they are a good addition to any dry mix. Next we have sesame seeds. Now these are high in calcium and other trace elements which are very good for your bird. However, again, it's another one of those seeds that's high in fat, so you can include it, but you need to include it in moderation. Remember with seeds, there's nothing necessarily wrong with having seeds in your parrot's diet. There's nothing wrong with a bit of fat in your parrot's diet because we all need it. It's all about proportions and moderation. Now let's move on to some freeze-dried veggies. We have some dried green pepper and red pepper. These are big hits with our conures. They're high in lots of vitamins, and as I said earlier in the video, they can be really good for diet conversion. If your parrot is willing to eat this and they like it, you may be able to get them onto fresh red pepper and fresh green pepper, which they may also enjoy. This also adds a lot of diversity to your dry mix because you're not just including seeds and grains and maybe some flowers and other bits and pieces, you're also including dried veggies, which is awesome. This is a new addition to our dry mix we're adding in and testing more recently, and that is hemp seed without the shell. Now we provide hemp seed as a treat for our parrots with the shell, so we don't really want to include it in their diet. We're going to include literally probably just this plate's worth in the dry mix to give them a bit more diversity. Now what it's good for, it's got some nice essential fats in it, it's also calming, and it does have impact on stressed birds. So in, again, small proportions, it can be quite useful in a parrot's diet. Do remember, with any treat foods, you kind of want to avoid putting them into your dry mixes or do it as a very small proportion, like I mentioned with the fruit earlier. Here we have some caraway seeds. Now these are good for antioxidants, vitamin A and trace minerals again. They also have quite a pleasant smell as well, so for you as a human, they make the dry mix smell quite nice. We have some dill seeds, again great for antioxidants and are good for boosting the immune system, so it doesn't hurt to add in some extras that have the same impact as well, because you never know which ones they're going to enjoy and eat. Next up we have raw unsweetened coconut chips. Now these are good again to add in moderation, and all of our conures enjoy it because they do have a slightly sweet flavour. These help with the metabolism and also provide a little bit of extra energy because they are quite high in natural sugars. So again, it's another sort of thing to add in moderation to your parrot's diet, and they make a really good substitute for other dried fruit products because they're just lots easier for your parrot to digest and they're not quite as high in sugar. We have some Ceylon or true cinnamon, not to be confused with Chinese cinnamon. You need to use Ceylon cinnamon, not the other one, because this one's perfectly safe for your parrot. The other one is most certainly not. Now this one is great because it's antifungal, antiviral and antibacterial. It does help preserve the dry mix as well a little bit because it has those properties. It has a very pleasing smell to us, and it can make a lot of fun for your parrot because they enjoy shredding it. So it's almost like having a toy in the dry mix, and I love to add this sort of spice into a dry mix because the smell is pleasant but it's not overpowering. For example, I wouldn't add star anise into a dry mix because it has such a strong smell. I'd be worried about overpowering everything else in there. Another thing commonly included in dry mixes is flowers, and we like to include a bit of flowers in ours. We've actually bought Polly's meal topper for this because it's got like loads of things that our parrots like already mixed in, so we can just put it straight in. And for example, it has dandelion leaf, dried edible rose petals, which I know Scampy absolutely adores. We've got a little bit of hibiscus. We've got a few extra pumpkin seeds in there, red clover flower, rose hip, spearmint, which has another pleasing smell and has some benefits to health, and just another sort of mix. You can buy these individual components, but we kind of like Polly's products, so we thought it'd be nice to just include a mix of it in there. Again, another flower mix here that we've added into our dry mix. As a reminder, you can do these in individual components. It depends on what your bird likes and what you want to include. Flowers have many health benefits to your parrot. I have a video on it, which I'll leave a card for now, and you can learn more. Similarly, I have one on spices as well and herbs, but again, you can just check out my channel for those. So in this one we have calendula, whole blue cornflower, chamomile flower, which I'm a big fan of, hibiscus, more red clover, elderflower, and some more edible rosebuds, which I know Scampy will love. Next up is some courgette or zucchini for our American friends. This is a very good source of protein. Again, another useful diet conversion tool because it is a vegetable, and it just again adds a nice bit of diversity to our dry mix, and hopefully it'll be a big hit with all of our parrots because they all seem to like that sort of vegetable. Another thing me and Sophie decided to add into the dry mix is milk thistle seed, and we decided to add it in to their diet because it's quite good for liver health, and we felt that would be something very beneficial to our parrots' general well-being. Another grain here, which is spelt. It has a nice nutty flavour, which is popular with a lot of parrots, packed full of lots of nutrition, and it helps with their digestion as well. So it's another sort of nice thing to include. Now for a herb, and we thought we'd include some dried rosemary as the fresh stuff is very popular with our birds. It's an anti-inflammatory, it helps boost the immune system, and it also includes lots of nice antioxidants, which is good for them in general. Count how many times I say this in this video as a little game if you want, but it is true. This is another one that's high in antioxidants, and this is oregano or oregano for our American friends. It also has antibacterial properties, which makes it useful for preserving a dry mix. You may have noticed in one of my recent chop videos, I added some dried oregano to that to help preserve it. I normally like to add fresh into that, but there wasn't any available, so I thought why not include this in a dry mix too. Another veggie here, which is kale. This has lots of vitamin A, C and K, and these are very essential for parrots and very beneficial. Again, you're adding a bit of colour to your dry mix with biting this, it's a nice bit of greenery, and again, you can count how many times I say this too, a bit of diversity. Freeze-dried peas are another thing we decided to add in, mostly because our entire flock loves them, although the freeze-dried variant of peas, absolute Kipling's favourite, he just loves chewing them up and eating them. They are a very good source of protein for your parrots, so especially good when they're molting or if you're trying to help them get a little boost. Then we have a bit of a controversial one, and that is corn, freeze-dried corn. Now you may find this in some of the less well-recommended mixes we talk about, especially seed mixes or other mixes, because it is not ideal, but there's the big but. In extreme moderation, a little bit of it is fine, and it can be a good source of protein, and it can be a good source of vitamin C. So it's just, again, about the proportions. We're going to provide a very small proportion of this in our dry mix to add a little bit extra to it, add a bit of colour, and to fulfil that vitamin C requirement. Another green ingredient in our dry mix, and that is freeze-dried broccoli. Broccoli is kind of an all-round star. It has lots of vitamins, lots of minerals and trace elements which are good for your parrot. So it's something that's well worth including in most dry mixes. And again, it's another good diet conversion tool, because if they will try the freeze-dried broccoli, they may try the fresh, which is also very, very good for them. Here we have a nice colourful ingredient to the dry mix, and that is freeze-dried carrot. It is high in vitamin A, and it's not just an old tale. It is actually good for eye health as well, and that will apply to your parrot. Another lovely colourful thing to add to your dry mix, and that is freeze-dried beetroot. This is high in vitamin B9. It also has antioxidants. Again, adds lots of colour and just may make it more appealing to certain fussy beaks because, again, the flavour has a slight sweetness to it. So even though it's not a fruit, a lot of your sweet beaks may enjoy this. I thought it'd be nice just to round things off to show you the finished product. Remember, each batch of dry mix will look slightly different depending on what you put in it, the proportions and how you mix it. And that's good because you want things to be slightly different and more interesting and have that, again, the word diversity in it. So here you go, here is the dry mix. I'll try and pan a little bit so you can see it a bit more clearly. And yeah, there's all sorts of colours in there, lots of lovely things that your parrot will enjoy, and hopefully our parrots will get lots of fun out of too. So guys, thank you very much for watching. I hope you found this video educational and useful, and maybe gave you some inspiration for your own dry mix. If you have any questions, please feel free to get in touch. But in the meantime, from me, Pickles and Scampy, who's just flying off to try some. Take care and have a really good day.